Welcome to the classroom. Today we are talking about preparing to go out in the field and do some structural geological mapping. So I want to take you through some of the basic kit that I would take out into the field for a day trip, let's say. Obviously, you're going to add and subtract from what I've got here for your specific project, for your specific location and the duration of your field work. So first and foremost is field safety. So we want to have a variety of things to keep us safe out in the field. If you're going up to any rock cliffs or underground, you definitely need your hard hat. All right, I always bring a rain jacket. This is an Arc'teryx rain jacket. I love it. I've had it for many years. We'll put together a gear review video on that one if you like. Give it a thumbs up if you want to see that video. Definitely need some sun protection if you're outside. Full brim hat if it's a really sunny location like some of my field work in Egypt, or your more traditional ball cap. You also want to bring a pair of safety glasses, all right? You want to keep those eyes safe, especially if you're using your rock hammer. And you want to bring some water. Always bring a water bottle with you, and maybe even some water purification if you're going out for a long time. But for a day trip, probably a couple bottles of water is fine. You definitely want to have a first aid kit with you, especially if you're a little bit further afield outside of a town or a city with a hospital or a medical center. Bring your basics, Band-Aids, some gauze wrap, some sterile wipes, and things like that. You can pick up a day tripper medical kit at most Shoppers Drug Marts and at most pharmacies and so on. And you may want to bring a few little snacks. Not sponsored by Cashew, but they are yummy. All right, so that's kind of the safety gear. And before I forget, you also want to bring a safety vest, especially if you're working along the side of a road. But I always like to wear this vest because it has lots of pockets that you can store and easily access a lot of your mapping equipment. So what I've got here in the middle is sort of the basic mapping equipment that I would bring with me. First and foremost, I will bring a field notebook. This is a Write in the Rain field notebook. So if it gets wet, it doesn't matter, it'll stay good, especially if you use a waterproof pen. All right, and you want to take good notes about the weather, the location, the aims of your project, and any little tidbits that help you remember what you were doing when you were collecting that data. Then you'll also have a table of data that you've collected for each station, each location, maybe some sketches, and also do a summary at the end of the day to sort of summarize all the notes that you've taken and the stops you've made and any little tidbits of information that'll help you when you go to analyze that data. Now, obviously, with today's technology, you'll also probably be using a cell phone or a tablet to collect lots of data, but I still like to bring a field notebook just as a backup in case batteries die. I just like to be able to have that for sketching freehand as well. All right, there will be a video link to the Clino app, which I like to use on my phone, and there's a variety of other apps that you can use to collect structural geological information. I still always bring with me a traditional compass so that I can validate that my app is working properly when I go to take measurements. I'll take a few with the compass, a few on the same spot with the app, just to make sure. And the compass is also very useful for plotting information on a paper map. If you have to do it, there's a ruler, you can do angles, so you can use it as a protractor. I do like to bring a Douglas protractor. It's very nice for plotting, especially parallel lines on your map and transferring them across using the grid that's there. And you can use it as a traditional protractor as well. It doesn't hurt to have a ruler. I've got a triangle ruler here to make right angles and different things like that. You could try to combine some of these things together. The compass also has a right angle on it, although the corners are a little bit rounded, all right? For taking pictures, you're going to want to have a scale with you, okay? That could be a ruler, but here I've got a scale pattern, 1 centimeter grid squares. All right, so that's nice to have in your picture, and you can have other information like grain size and so on your card as well. So those are sort of some things for mapping. You will want obviously to have marker for writing on sample bags or writing on survey stakes and markers and different things like that. Backup pencils, all right, and pens. I do like to have a mechanical pencil, a 0.7 lead I find is nice, so you can put a little bit of pressure without breaking it, and some backup lead. So that's sort of the traditional mapping tools that you would need. Now, for mineral identification, it may not be a main aspect of your project, okay, but you do want to validate that your desktop information you found, you validate that in the field. So you're going to want to bring a pocket knife with you. You can use it, for hardness scratching test. If it's a calcite bearing rock or limestone or marble, you can use it to powder, and you might add to your kit some dilute hydrochloric acid to do the fizz test for calcite bearing rocks and minerals. You want to bring a hand lens. So I've got a 10 times hand lens here, get a good look at some of those minerals, and you can bring a streak plate or a glass scratch plate, help you with your mineral hardness. All right, and you want to be able to validate what you've seen in your desktop study is what you actually have on your site. A lot of Canada has been mapped, a lot of North America, in fact, has been mapped at a very high resolution. However, some of those boundaries have been inferred, and geologists haven't walked every square meter of the land. So you may be at one of those places where the boundary just isn't quite right, and you need to check that out on your walkover. And finally, you want to have a nice rock hammer. I've used S-Wing a long time. You got a good point here. You can scratch at the rock, make powder, good for prying or even digging in soil. And then you've got the hammer end, good for checking if it's a boulder versus actual bedrock. You can do a ping test to see how hard it is or how soft it is. It won't ping at all if it's really soft. And that gives you a general idea of what kind of rock you're dealing with and how strong it is. Obviously, we're going to do some other measurements. So you may do a scan line. So that's nice to have a long tape. So you could do a scan line at a rock side outcrop or even underground, taking your measurements along that particular scan line. And a few other additional items that you might like to have. A clipboard is always useful if you're going to do some mapping traditionally with paper. Okay, and this is a rather big clipboard. I'm going to give it a try. I did like the feature that it has a light on it. So if you're doing underground mapping, it could be very handy. I haven't tried this in the field, but I wanted to get a very rugged clipboard. I've used some plastic ones from Staples, and they break very easily, especially in cold weather. And in cold weather, I have a metal clipboard, but it's very cold on your hands doing mapping the traditional way. If it's going to be a rainy day, or just to take samples from the field and maintain their moisture content, you want a nice big sample bag. Take a few of those along, but you can actually use them to take your notes in if it's raining really heavy. So you can actually get your notebook inside the plastic bag and take your notes that way. So it's a handy way to collect samples and keep your notes dry. So those are some of the basic things that I like to bring with me. And I can't forget backup power. I've got a nice little solar operated battery pack here that you can plug your cell phone in or your tablet. Keep things going as long as possible. All right, and all of this stuff I can fit into my safety vest to make it very handy to access and work hands-free most of the time. So that way, depending on the task you're doing, you just reach for that tool and away you go. And so that's very handy to have a safety vest like this, or even just some cargo pants or something where you can stash a lot of your gear for easy access. So I hope that helps you get ready for field trips in the future. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.